All right, joining us this morning on Hot Copy, we have presidential candidate, Senator Panfilo Lacson. Senator Lacson, good morning to you.
Good morning, Karen.
All right, Senator, what do you make of all these changes, these substitutions over the last weekend?
Well, interesting times indeed, what's happening now showcases the convoluted narrative of the state of politics in the country. Sabi nga nung kaibigan kong Amerikano na matagal na rito, only in the Philippines. Medyo magulo, but interesting times. Let's take it one at a time, and let's see what happens today.
Okay. Now, what was your initial reaction with the possibility of two Dutertes, father and daughter, running against each other, or the president claiming he did not know that his daughter filed?
Personally, I'm not surprised anymore.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, you know naman how the father and daughter are in terms of relationship, particularly or specifically sa politics.
Okay, but do you already see this as a mockery of our substitution rule?
We need to legislate because as of now, there's no legislation. There's nothing in the law that prohibits the COMELEC from issuing resolutions, changing resolutions. So ganyan na naging situation. So Senate President and I, Senate President Tito Soto and I agreed that we should really take a serious look at the in amending the Omnibus Election Code to make it more or less permanent. Kasi pagka nasa batas na, COMELEC cannot issue resolutions contrary to what is provided in the law that we will pass.
Okay, now there are two things. Some have suggested that the voluntary provision in the substitution rule should be abolished, that it's only involuntary substitution that should be left.
Correct. Ang dapat kasama lang in case of death or incapacity or disqualification. Nothing more. Kasi pagka voluntary, doon lumalabas yung abuso. No, magpapile, knowing fully well na hindi naman talaga tutuloy. Parang hoping against hope that the intended person na magpapile, magbabago ng isip. So you're correct in that regard. That
Okay.
we should really eliminate or prohibit yung mga voluntary substitution or voluntary filing for possible substitution.
Now, Senator, there were also some sectors that were frankly turned off by what happened over the weekend. What do you make? I'm sure you've heard these reactions.
Yes, but kami ni Senate President, hindi kami ma-distract because matagal na namin pinag-usapan. Kahit ano mangyari, kahit sino'y makatapat, we'll be focused on presenting our platform of government, our roadmap in the next 6 years, and the issues involved. Sa dami ng problema ng bansa, doon na lang kami nakatutok in finding solutions. And offering the solutions that we have in mind with the help of our advisors, the experts, the resource persons, doon lang kami. So hindi kami masyadong distracted sa nangyayaring gulo sa politika sa Pilipinas.
Yes. I'll get to your plans later on, but you also have some observations that the president may be overplaying his hand. Do you have the same sense?
He always overplays his hand, in almost every affair or yung sa mga affairs sa gobyerno. Nakita na naman natin yan for the past 5 years or so. So nothing else is new, Karen.
Okay, all right. Is this a good time for the opposition to unite?
Well,
you've
there
heard
were talks.
Yeah.
Yes, there were talks of unification, but at this point in time, I doubt it. In my case, so many people have been involved. At the time when we were talking about unification, okay pa kasi konti lang yung kakausapin. I have Speaker Alvarez in my team. I have the former DIG Secretary Ronaldo Puno in my team. I have a whole lot of people, na we're working together. And we're growing. I'm glad that I have Partido Reforma behind me. We are now, 377,000 strong. And we keep building up by the day. There's so many volunteers. Ang focus namin ngayon is grassroots. On top of course, the usual messaging platforms like the social media and of course the mainstream media. Pero mas focus kami sa grassroots organization. And these are intangibles as we speak right now. But at the proper time, I think it will help boost our candidacy.
And Senator, how do you feel about the recent SWS survey? One would ask, doesn't this discourage you? You have Senator Bongbong Marcos, the former senator, at 40+% already, and then you have Vice President Lenny at a far number 2, and Manila Mayor Isko at number 3.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm not distracted. And I'm encouraged by the hard work being displayed by our people on the ground. So, yun. I'm not affected at all, Karen. And I'm being honest.
And what is it? Do you pay attention to surveys? What kind of barometer are you using?
I pay more attention on the efforts of our people on the ground. I pay more attention on studying, continue studying the solutions to the humongous problems that we have right now. Because at the end of the day, it will be issues that will matter.
Issues that will matter, but are you seeing on your end a slow increase in terms of voter conversion?
Yes, we see that. And we are encouraged by that.
Okay. Now, Cebu, they say, is up for grabs. If Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte is not running, there are 3.2 million registered voters in Cebu. Have you met already with Governor Gwen Garcia or One Cebu?
Yes, we did. We paid a courtesy call on Governor Gwen, and she was gracious enough to accept us and to welcome us, just like what she does with other candidates na pumupunta sa Cebu. And to us, that's good enough, because you're graciously welcomed by the chief executive of the province. Okay yon, Karen. And para payagan kami na do our thing, as long as we do not violate the health protocols in Cebu, that's more than good enough for us.
So how does a Ping Tito Sen tandem secure One Cebu's endorsement?
Well, grassroots, mas importante. At this point in time, kasi Karen, we received reports na yung tupad, yung program ng DOLE, yung tulong panghanap buhay sa disadvantaged displaced workers, these are being taken advantage of by some politicians. This is a program under the DOLE. Hindi lang yun, pati yung AICS, yung assistance sa yung mga pamilya, individuals and families, under DSWD naman ito. Assistance sa crisis situation. Ganun din, I cannot understand for the life of me why such government programs will be coursed through some politicians, requesting for, say, permit to hold caravans or to do caravans in some areas, and then because we're getting our feedback from the mayors who are sympathetic, who are supportive. Sinasabi nila, nagpapaalam yung iba, kasi kung hindi sila mag-contribute ng mga constituents nila, kasama yung mga sasakyan, hindi sila mabibigyan ng tupad. Sabi ko, sumama na lang kayo kasi pera naman natin lahat yan. Pera naman nyo yan. Sabihin mo sa mga supporters natin dyan, sumama na lang sila para makatanggap sila ng tupad kung gano'n ang laro. But some of them, at least one, told me, no sir, because it might create some confusion among our supporters. If I send our supporters to join the caravan of this and that candidate, then baka mali yung signal. So, and I appreciate, mayors, incumbent, mayors na gano'n ang attitude. But then, I cannot also blame, and in fact, I would encourage them, pagka meron ganong situation, for the protection, para sa interest ng kanilang constituents, who by the way, contributed through their tax contribution doon sa through their tax yung contribution nila sa pagbabayad ng buwis, dapat makuha nila yung katumbas na tulong dahil disadvantaged na nga, displaced na nga. Let them take advantage of these people, of these poor individuals. But wala tayong magagawa. This is part of the game.
Yeah.
So let's just shrug our shoulders and observe, and let's see what happens next.
But another issue you brought up as being part of the game, in effect, well, these ping lakson Tito Sen masks, you've called out the traffic enforcers in Manila. Has that been settled? Pwede na bang pag nakaping lakson mask sa Manila?
Hindi ko alam. Those are petty issues.
Yeah.
Sinabi ko nga when I interpolated sa budget ng DILG, nagkataon, this happened last Thursday. And I took advantage, Senate President Tito Soto and I took advantage of the presence of the DILG Secretary and then Chief PNP Eliasar who were present physically. So sabi ko, this is a parochial issue na ayaw ko na sanang i-bring up. Pero relevant pa rin ito sa mission and vision of the PNP. And they're kind enough to say that they will look into the matter and investigate properly. That's why I was surprised do sa reaction ni with all due respect kay Mayor Isko. Sabi niya hindi ako chismoso. The least that I would want to hear from him, well, let's look into this because this is wrong. At kung totoo, dapat papanagutin yung mga gumagawa nito. That was the least that I expected from a gentleman like Isko Moreno, because I've talked to him and he seemed nice. He seemed gentlemanly and so forth and so on. So I was surprised by the reaction when he was interviewed. I think this was in Laguna the day after noong interpellation ko sa budget ng DILG. Ganon ang naging reaction. So natawa na lang ako, bakit ganon ang naging reaction ni Mayor Isko?
Okay. Now, I'm curious. I asked you about the opposition uniting. Senator Lacson, at the end of the day, some say that you have the Marcos Duterte base that remains solid, regardless of whatever position the members of that group decide to run. They remain solid, although we know there are cracks within that particular group itself. But then you do have the opposition. There's 4 of you. There's yourself, Vice President Robredo, Mayor Isko, and also Senator Bani. So, there are talks of just such a divided vote among your end as well.
We may be speaking too soon when we say it's solid. As you said, and rightly so, meron din mga cracks. And as we observe the administration, sabihin na nating administration identified candidates, di ba? Hindi naman talaga ganun kasolid because we were expecting or we were anticipating that the administration will put up a solid team, a solid tandem. Alam mo, I heard because this was narrated to me by Speaker Alvarez, who is very close to Secretary Cusi. They remain as very good friends even as we speak, even in the middle of this gulo-gulo sa politika. Sabi, nabanggit sa kanya minsan ni Alcusi, sabi niya, Nyor ang tawag niya kay Speaker Bebot. Sabi niya, alam mo ang worry namin, baka we might end up na yung administration, wala kaming kandidato. So, kaya hindi ako na-surprise talaga sa nangyayari ngayon mga developments because of those, initial information that we were getting. From within because direct naman yung pakikipag-usap ni Speaker Bebot kay Alcusi because matalag sila magkaibigan. Yun ang unang in-express. So hindi na kami nagulat sa nangyayari, Karen, actually.
So hindi ka na nagulat, and I wanted to ask you, being a legislator, former Senator Bongbong Marcos faces a disqualification case with the COMELEC, and there are more civil society groups that are filing their petitions. Would you consider failure to file an ITR a crime that involves moral turpitude?
I'd rather not comment on that, Karen. Napag-usapan din namin ni SP Tito ito, ni Tito Sen, na pagka involving issues, hounding the other candidates, we will not comment. We'll just focus on how we will present ourselves.
Okay. All right. What about debates? Media has changed. You do have candidates that refuse to be interviewed by mainstream media, using social media instead to tell their own narratives. Do you believe it's time that debates be made? It's either a condition for a presidential and vice presidential candidate?
Well, it is to the gain or loss of the presidential candidate to attend or not to attend the debates. Ako, Karen, I've already attended. Yung first presidential forum sponsored by Phoenix, yung Signal, Manila Times, and I think another entity, yung Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry Incorporated, sila nag-sponsor. Ako yung unang umuo. And I attended, I presented my platform, kung ano yung mga plano, and then they told me they also invited the others. They're supposed to hold it every Saturday. And I think 2 Saturdays ago ako nag-present ng aking sarili sa Phoenix. Sabi nila, I hope the others will follow suit. I don't know. That's their call. I also attended the forum organized by AmCham. Ganun din, nag-present. Ako, ready ako, Karen, because nag-aral kami ni SP. Alam namin yung problema. Pinag-aralan na namin yung mga solution. So we're ready to face any forum or any candidate for that matter to present our platform and plans, moving forward.
But should it be made obligatory? Should it be?
We cannot make it obligatory. It should be encouraged. As a matter of fact, I heard that the COMELEC will sponsor at least 3 presidential and another 3 vice presidential debates starting in January, and that's good because that's how people should know their candidates. How they will address questions unprepared. Kasi mahirap din yung parang scripted. Madali lang yun eh. Pero pagka yung nandyan, I used to watch you ask questions the candidates in 2016.
Yeah.
And sabi ko, ito mukhang dapat talaga paghandaan ito because these are unexpected questions na testing the capability, the competence, experience, and so forth and so on of each and every candidate. Of course, the final judge will be the people. After the debate, alam mo sa Amerika, ang ganda ng sistema nila. After every presidential debate, nagbabago yung pananaw ng tao, nagbabago yung perception. I don't know if it is also true in the Philippines, but that's the way it should be. Because, after all, we're facing so many problems. Pag nagkamali tayo at ginawang internship itong 6 years, starting in 2022, all the way to 2028, saan tayo pupulutin, Karen? So our people should be educated. Our people should be informed. And they should really have yung wise and informed choice on who should lead them in the next 6 years. That's very important. You and I agree na tayo lahat affected.
But I'm curious, you talk about wisdom and choices. And you did say before na sana ang kampanya hindi lang TikTok or pasayaw-sayaw sa TikTok, but there are candidates that have so many fan accounts on TikTok. Where do you stand on something like this with your own campaign?
Well, what we can do is to educate our people, na hindi masosolve ng TikTok ang problema ng bansa. Ang makakasolve ng problema ng bansa, yung pinapresent namin dalawa, pardon me Karen, kasama na yung kampanya rito. Yung pinapresent namin KKK, kakayahan, katapatan, katapangan. Hindi po pwedeng puro entertainment politics tayo. Kasi pag dyan tayo napunta, that's the reason why I said, very important that we should educate our electorate. Kasi pagka hindi educated yung electorate, mababaw kung sino lang yung, alam mo, nakapag-distribute ng hindi naman nila pera. Pera ng programa ng gobyerno na nanggaling sa buwis. At yun ang titignan nilang batayan para piliin ang kanilang kandidato. Sa kanila rin ang balik. Alam mo, isang kamalian sa culture of politics natin, yung culture of mendicancy. Pardon me, I'm just being frank, hindi to attack against some people, especially in the countryside, Pero we should at least wake up to the reality na yung matanggap mong halimbawang 10,000, 5,000, 1,000, good for 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. Pero ang balik sa iyo niyan, 6 years, mamili ka. Ano yung hirap ba ng buhay ng 6 years o yung ginawa ng buhay mo ng isang araw ang pagpipilian mo? I think the choice is clear. But then, these are desperate times. And we cannot blame also our people na tanggapin at i-appreciate nila yung ganong gesture ng mga kandidato. But then they should really think more deeply about the future of our country. That's all I can say, Karen.
Okay, so 2 things on gesture of candidates. There's been already discussions on Senator Manny Pacquiao handing out 1,000 pesos to people wherever he goes. And sabi ni Senator Manny, mas buti pang mabigay ako kesa magnakaw. But you already have people saying it's a form of vote buying tool. What do you make of that?
There's no vote buying at this point in time, Karen. Kasi wala pa namang campaign period. Ngayon, pag February 9, baka ibang usapan yon. I heard the COMELEC spokesperson James Jimenez articulated on this issue. Ang sinabi niya, wala tayong masasabi pa maski naglalaki kami ni Senate President, naglalaki yung mga billboards. Pero pagdating ng February 9, we will all be regulated by COMELEC issuances and resolutions. But as of now, wala kasi hindi pa naman talaga officially nag-start yung campaign period. So, tama naman si Senator Manny, pera naman niya yung pinamimigay niya. But ako, somehow, a part of me, parang nakikisimpatya sa kanya because, alam mo, hindi naman infinite yung income ni Senator Pacquiao. As a matter of fact, he has just announced his retirement from boxing. And wala naman tayong pakialam dahil pera niya yon. So kung gano'n ang kanyang pamamaraan para makiramay sa tao, well, we should appreciate it also because marami siya natutulungan. Ang masama, yung hindi mo pera, tama siya, ninakaw mo o hindi mo pera, tapos pinamumudmud mo. Pero tama rin yun kasi Robin Hood, steal from the rich. Ang problema, they're not stealing from the rich, they're stealing from the poor and redistributing the money from some of the poor. So hindi talaga Robin Hood.
So ang tanong ko, when you have politicians or candidates saying, kung inoffer kayo, take the money and vote according to your conscience. You have Vice President Leni Robredo who recently said that, and years back, even former Senator Bongbong Marcos, and many others have said that. Do you agree with that?
Not during the campaign period. Sa ngayon, lahat libre naman eh. So what's the difference between now, between Senator Manny, for example, distributing part of his, yung kanyang kinita sa boxing, na maayos naman yung pamamaraan, at saka yung namimigay siya years ago. Dati naman yung ginagawa yun. Ang mga tao lang, they should see through the gestures of politicians. Kung biglang namigay, dahil kakandidato, ibang usapan yon. And I think ito yung part ng education natin sa ating electorate, na dapat maging discerning na kung unusual yung ginagawa ng isang kakandidato, pagkatapos na ma-elect yan, kakalimutan kayo niyan. Yan ang problema. In fairness to Senator Manny, he's been doing that. Alam mo, nung napunta siya sa Senate, maraming natuwa dito, yung mga elevator girls, yung aming mga janitors, maraming natuwa kasi nandiyan si Senator Manny. And this was years ago, So ako, hindi issue sa akin kung namimigay si Senator Manny. Pero ibang usapan, pag yung campaign period, namimigay ka ng pera, may vote buying aspect na yon.
So when Vice President Leni Robredo said, take the money and then vote according to your conscience, do you see some reason in that?
Well, sa akin, diskarte niyan parang sa tingin ko naman parang mali. Tinuturoan natin yung mga tao to take advantage. And alam naman natin yung ugali natin mga Pilipino. Malalim sa atin yung utang na loob. Dahil kultura natin yan di ba? That's one trait na minana natin sa ating mga forefathers. Kasi maski sabihing take the money but don't vote, parang sa akin, meron ding mali sa ganon. Sa akin naman siguro, pag-aralang mabuti ng mga botante natin, yung kilitisin nila mabuti, doon na lang tayo. Huwag na natin pag-usapan yung tungkol sa take the money and then afterwards vote according to your conscience. I think nakakuha ni Vice President Robredo yan sa, di ba yung mga pare, gano'n ang sinasabi na take the money. Of course, kanya-kanyang pananaw. But I'd rather not, belabor the issue.
Okay, before we talk about the budget, we're going to go into a quick break. I wanted to ask you General Eleazar, former PNP chief, joining your Senate slate. So who is in the final slate at this point?
Well, sa Partido Reforma, we have three. Dr. Minguita Padilla, si Congressman Monsur del Rosario, and General Guillermo Alyazar. Yung NPC, nandiyan sina former Senator Chis Escudero, Loren Legarda, si Sherwin Gatchalian is also with NPC. Of course, Herbert Bautista, Manny Piñol, yan yung mga NPC because si Senate President is chairman of the NPC, I'm chairman of the Partido Reforma. So meron kami mga incumbent senators na mga kaibigan namin. So we asked them or they asked us if they can be adopted. Sabi namin, of course, because we also want you to win. There's Mig Subiri, there's Joel Villanueva. Of course, former Vice President Binay also indicated that he wanted to be adopted by our party, but by our tandem. So, yun ang aming line-up. If I miss anyone, I'm sorry, but yun ang top of mind na sinabi ko ngayon.
And what do you make of common candidates who are in 3 or 4 slates? At the end of the day, ang tanong, sino presidente nila?
Yun ang dapat i-define. Pinag-usapan din namin ni Tito Senyan. Kakausapin namin sila. At the very least, dapat kung sasama sila sa amin, wag na sila mag-announce kung sino yung kanilang presidential candidate or vice presidential candidate. Yun lang sanang hihilingin namin. Kasi awkward naman siguro, nakasama namin sila sa entablado. Pagkatapos, iba yung isisigaw nilang presidential saka vice presidential candidate. Parang out of courtesy, dapat naman sana kung kasama sa tandem and that much, we can also expect of them. Pag naandun sila sa entablado ng iba, wag din lang isigaw din yung pangalan namin. So it's very important na yung kasama na adapt namin or kasama sa slate namin, malinaw yung pag-uusap na hindi namin sila i-demand na kami yung kanilang dalhin. Pero at the very least, have the courtesy of not shouting on the stage or in any platform yung pangalan ng kung sino man lang napapusuan nila. Sa kanila na lang siguro yon.
Pero ito ang tanong nga, Senator, isn't this also bastardizing the common candidates? I mean, of course, it's been a practice for a long time. But now you have senators that are in 3 or 4. So you have Senator Chis Escudero, who's soon to be most likely senator, again, in the most number of slates, right? So ang tanong is, kailan ang may hangganan? Kasi we're not strengthening the party system in this way too.
Karen, wala naman kasi tayong two-party system, multi-party tayo. Pati mga independents, di ba? Of course, si Rafi Tulfo, kasama rin doon sa slate namin, sumama sa aming kampanya sa Cavite. But hindi namin dinidiman talaga na sabihin mo yung kami yung sinusuportahan mo. So, well, good fortune ni Senator Chis na adopted siya ng 3 or more parties or tandems. So ako, when I ran in 2016, nangyari rin sa akin yon na inadopt din ako ng 2 or more political parties or groups, political groups. So swerte nila yon kasi mas maraming nagdadala sa kanila, especially pagdating ng paggawa ng mga sample ballots. Swerte nila yon, but we should have
but you don't think this should change? You don't think this should change, sir?
I was going into that issue. There must be an overarching parang solution. Magkaroon tayo ng strong two-party system. Like in the olden days, di ba, yung nasyonalista saka liberal. Pero over time, nawala lahat yon. Lumabas na yung katakot-takot ng mga political parties. So it cannot be avoided na may mga common candidates. So we should really overhaul yung political party system sa ating Pilipinas, sa ating bansa.
Senator, you said the formally hearings were fruitful and the siblings, the Dargani siblings, were just arrested at 5 p.m. yesterday.
Yes, I was informed by the Senate President last night after our kumustahan in Pampanga, no, that the OSAA people, yung security, Senate security people, are in Davao, and they were about to fly back to Manila with the siblings, Dargani siblings. And that's good, ano? And sabi ko nga, yung si Major General Rene Samonte, yung Sergeant at Arms namin, deserves commendations from the senators and the Filipino people as well, ano? Because, you know, had the Dargani siblings flown outside of the Philippines, wala na, no? Parang putol na rin tayo. So what I can say about this is there is no safe haven on earth, ano? Even for people like Michael Yang, Christopher Lau, Dargani siblings, Davao City is not safe. Wag nilang they should stop thinking na hindi sila pwedeng magalaw doon. No? As a matter of fact, as was proven last night or late afternoon yesterday, they're now in the Senate premises and they will be forced, no? Sabihin natin, gamit natin yung word na forced to attend the November 25 Blue Ribbon Committee hearing.
No, but then what about Michael Yang? He seems to be an untouchable so far.
Well, so far, you said it right, so far. But you know, our people here in the Senate are not sleeping on their job. No? Of course, he'll be more careful this time after the arrest of the Dargani siblings, and so is Christopher Lau, because both of them have already been cited in contempt of the Senate, of the committee, and have warrants of arrest against their persons.
No. What do you make of former police officer Asherto coming out of the blue? That's also been questioned. Who would be behind him? What do you make of his testimony?
I will leave it to the chairman kung papayagan yung kanyang pag-attend, no? Even virtually sa susunod na hearing or sa mga susunod na hearings. But I think he can contribute something, because he already mentioned Michael Yang and other personalities having been involved in the drug trade. And we want to find out from him directly, no, under questioning by senators, the members of the committee, kung ano yung, so we can assess kung totoo ba sinasabi niya or may exaggeration or hindi totoo. I also had the chance of meeting Asherto before he became scarce, because he came to my office. Ang naging problema lamang, the initial encounter that I had with him, he did not disclose everything. So I had my doubts because the second time around that he wanted to talk to me, I did not anymore face him because ang sabi ko sa kanya, we both came from the PNP. And the fact that he came forward to see me, I was expecting that wala siyang itatago. Pero kung half-truth lang yung ibibigay niya sa akin, forget it. Because alam mo, you know me, Karen, when I ask questions, I make sure talaga na hawak ko lahat yung data before I ask. Mahirap na mapasubo Because if you're taken for a ride, ikaw ang mapapahiya. So ako, I'm always known even by my colleagues for that na before I venture into something, I have the complete dossiers. I have the complete information. In fact, when I ask questions, I make sure that I know the answer already.
Okay, just very quickly, you don't have suspicions on who's behind him?
Right now, who's behind him to what? To disclose or to offer himself?
Suddenly,
I do not know. I do not know.
Okay.
Wala akong knowledge kung sino yung nagtutulak sa kanya to come forward.
Okay.
Maybe on his own because parang under attack yung kanyang person is now a wanted person, a fugitive, so to speak.
Mm-mm. Okay. Now, the president's landmark campaign promise was the drug war. And yet, just recently, there was a drug raid at a party in Davao City. Do you find that quite ironic?
Yeah, that's ironic. Talagang mahirap i-reconcile, no, the platform na nagpanalo sa kanya, at for the past 5 years ito yung kanyang laging advocacy. Tapos the irony of it all, it's a paradox na yung raid ng PIDEA nangyari mismo do sa area nila.
And what does that show about the drug war, Senator, for you? What does that reveal?
Well, I will just mention what the President said in his last SONA, last July. Di ba sabi niya, akala ko ganun lang kasimple ang pagsugpo sa illegal na droga. I was mistaken. Ang sabi niya, I thought parang Davao City lang. So, hindi na sa akin manggagaling, Karen. Malinaw naman yung interpretation kasi he said it as plainly as he could. No? Sinabi niya, in effect, in so many words, na mali yung kanyang assumption. No? Yung enormity of the problem na miscalculate niya. So, sa kanya nananggalang na hindi matagumpay yung kanyang advokasya, yung kanyang paglaban sa illegal na droga.
Okay, so let's talk about now the budget. The NTF-LCAC, you, along with other senators, supported the NTF-LCAC. And it turns out in your hearings, their performance was quite surprising. Only 26 out of 2,318 projects of the NTF-LCAC have been finished. So my question is, should it be abolished?
That says a lot. I was a proponent. In fact, I was the sponsor of the budget of the NTF-LCAC for the longest time dito sa Congress na ito. And I support the concept. The concept is very good. It jives well with the water lily theory na yung NPA is like a boat passing through a pond. Yung water lilies will just move sideways. And then after the boat has passed, babalik na naman yung water lilies represented by the NPAs. So yung concept ng NTF-LCAC, para lang malinaw yung where I'm coming from, kailangan talaga may development projects, may livelihood para hindi na makabalik yung NPA, o kung bumalik man, mag-join na sa mainstream. Napakaganda ng concept. But then, Karen, pag pinasukan naman ng politika, yan ang masama. Yan problema. Pagka pinasok ang politics sa maski anong endeavor na napakaganda, sira yung kabada. Look, 26 out of 2,300. And then we hear of areas na maraming clear barangays, and yet nakuha nilang pera, suporta from NTF-LCAC, napakaliit compared to other areas na tinanggihan na nga ni, sabihin na natin, I'll be direct. Si Mayor Inday Sara mismo, di ba sinabi niya, 1.64 billion pesos inallocate ng NTF-LCAC sa Davao City. Sabi niya, hindi ko kailangan yan. Kasi alam mo, we talked to Governor Bong Lacson, yung Negros, meron silang 24 barangays. At 20 million per barangay, malaking tulong talaga sa mga barangays para makapag-move on sila, na na-cleared na sila from the of NPA influence or control, maka-move on na sila. Maganda yung concept. But then, alam mo yung sa Davao City, 82 barangays. Ang binigyan, 1.64 billion. Na mismo yung local executive na nagsabi, hindi namin kailangan. Bigay nyo lang sa iba. So it means na walang planning. So it says...
Is it walang planning or ginagamit na sa politika at sa eleksyon?
Both. Wala nang planning kasi inisip nila, gamitin lang natin sa politika ito. Ba't ka pa magpaplano kung pampolitika lamang? And then we heard the PNP na nagpo-form nitong global something. This is a political group. And then, ang ginagamit nila yung pondo ng NTF-LCAC because, Karen, yung 28 billion na for 2022 na kinat ng Senate to 4 billion, it's not actually 28 billion because there's 2 billion more na nakapark sa iba't ibang agencies like the SWD, DILG. Ito yung pang-provide daw ng support services sa NTF-LCAC. So it's actually 30 billion. Hindi 28. So I asked Senator Angara, sponsor of the budget.
Yeah.
Well, kung binawasan natin ng 4 billion pesos from 28 billion yung NTF-ELCAC.
Ang naiwan na lang 4. Yan ang
No,
ngayon.
pero pang 2 billion nga eh. So sabi ko, anong gagawin natin sa 2 billion na pang support services? Kasi kung gagawin natin proportionate, 7% lang naman yung 2 billion ng 28 billion. So di ba it's logical for us to also slash yung 2 billion to something like representative of the 7% of the 4 billion. So does it make sense? So sabi naman ni Senator Angara, pag-aralan. Kasi kung nandiyan pa rin, may nakapark na, say sa DILG, may nakapark na 1.194 billion pesos. Support services ka lamang, ang susuportahan mo nasa 4 billion na lamang. So di ba logical na bawasan na rin natin yung support services kasi baka kung saan na naman gamitin.
So to simplify, just quickly, Senator Ping, so the public will understand, for 2022, given that you want a COVID responsive budget, do you think the NTF-ELCAC with its performance should be first given zero budget for 2022?
Not zero, but streamline natin. Kasi maganda nga yung concept. I fully support the concept. Ano? Kasi,
so you don't believe it should be abolished? You don't believe it should be abolished?
It should be abolished. No? It should be streamlined and monitored more closely and make them accountable criminally and administratively. Those responsible for the wrong implementation and even misuse of the NTF-ELCAC fund should be made accountable. Pero to totally abolish it. Ano? But of course, meron nga tayong COVID-19 pandemic pang ina-attendan. And we should also, that's another matter, Karen, ano? Yung Universal Healthcare Act natin, pinas natin to 3 years ago. And after 3 General Appropriations Laws na naipasa namin, nandun pa rin tayo sa low cost. Alam mo yung low cost, that's 141 billion yung allocation. For 2022, 3 years after, billion. Short pa rin ito para makatawid tayo sa medium cost. Fast forward, ang high cost, it would address all barangays. Ano? Ma-address na yung lahat ng problema. One hospital bed per 800 population. Ganun ang ratio dapat. Bakit hindi natin binigyan ng priority? Nasa pandemic tayo. So wrong sense of priorities, Karen.
So that's how you would describe the budget? Because I asked Senator Sonny, he says it's mistargeted, not naman mispriorities, but would you describe it as wrong priorities?
I agree with Senator Angara, no? And I'm glad, since he is the chairman of the Finance Committee, we will stand foursquare behind the chairman, our chairman, in this regard. Na hindi pa tayo graduate sa pandemic, unahin natin itong pandemic. You know, while we are opening up. Pero while we open up our economy, kasi we're losing 20.5 billion a day. Ito yung estimate ng NEDA, no? Pagka nag-lockdown. And we cannot afford anymore. But the health protocols, pero ang talagang sikreto, according to health experts, vaccination, vaccination, vaccination.
Okay, my last question, we don't have enough time, but here's a question from a viewer. The viewer's asking, can you please ask Senator Ping Lacson, what's his stand with Senator Laila De Lima, his colleague? Did this administration target her?
Well, it's already in the courts, you know? And I think the court should decide. And I can only urge the court to speedily dispose of yung case or cases ni Senator De Lima, in fairness to her. Everybody is entitled to speedy trial.
Okay, you know what? You were once a police, you were once the PNP chief, and during the campaign, Mayor Duterte admitted to killing, I think, 2 or 3 people. He said that in several interviews. Nakapatay na po ba kayo ng tao, Senator?
In self-defense and in the performance of our duties as law enforcement officers, yes.
Okay, but then are you seeing that there's this present situation of empowering the police has also turned abusive towards ordinary Filipinos?
Yes, we saw that during our hearings, ano, yung sa public order hearings. Di ba ang nangyari, yung first impact noong high-profile drug war, we witnessed, we had resource persons who testified na yung inuna ng mga ibang, yung mga scalawags na pulis, yung mga runners nila before President Duterte took over because they might tell on them. So there's this couple in father and mother from Antipolo. Sinabi nila, yung pumatay sa anak namin, ito yung nagpapabenta sa anak namin ng droga. Ito yung recycled. So mali, it started on the wrong foot because when you tolerate something like that, it grows bigger and the problem becomes more serious. So dapat nip in the bud. Kung mayroong ganon, make them answerable.
Okay, just very quickly, but we don't have
ng present administration. It started on the wrong foot.
Started on the wrong foot. And very quickly, how then do you handle feedback from some netizens when they say, when you criticize the police force today, but during your time, you were also accused of Kuratong Balele? So they were saying it's very similar. How do you respond to that, Senator?
Karen, yung Kuratong Baleleng, it passed through separate or different trials. Na-dismiss ng 3 times yan. At least 3 times na-dismiss. Pero alam mo, ito unfair sa amin because we were drowned in this propaganda war na talagang we were judged sa public opinion, guilty na kami. Hindi man lang inisip na meron tayong mga korte na nagde-decide. And we were acquitted not only once, not only twice, but 3 times. Pero it kept coming back.
Yeah. So
I think it's unfair to me and to those people because Karen, nakalimutan na ba natin na during those times 2-3 times a week merong na-hold up na bangko, pagkatapos may napapatay na mga tellers, may napapatay na security guard. You know what struck me the most when I was watching TV Patrol at the time? There was this labandera, poor mother. Ang sabi niya, ang hinagpis niya, pinag-aral ko yung anak ko, nakatapos ng nurse, ngayon pa lang siya makakatulong sa akin. Anong kasalanan nila? Malapit lang sa bangko. I think this was Banco de Oro in Center Point.
Collateral damage.
Napatay. Sabi niya, umiiyak. Alam mo, that struck me the most. I almost cried with her just watching her on TV. And I said, what kind of animals are these people? Wala namang kasalanan. Ang malungkot talaga, alam mo, pinag-aral ng ilang taon. Pinaglakantera niya pagkatapos mapapatay ng ganon. Yun na nakalimutan ng mga kababayan natin. Ang naisip niya, si Lacson at yung mga kasamahan niya na pumatay doon sa Kuratong Baleleng, hindi naisip ano ba yung circumstances that led to the killing of the Kuratong Baleleng gang and what those people did, yung atrocities that they committed. Nakalimutan na lahat yun, Karen eh.
Okay, so if you win as president, will you be iron-fisted when it comes to peace and order?
Against criminals, notorious criminals, yes. But in accordance with the rule of law.
All right.
We will always observe the rule of law.
On that note, Senator Ping Lacson, I don't have enough time, but I want to thank you so much for joining me today. We hope to have you back again soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Karen. Don't migrate yet.
Thank you. All right. That's Senator Ping Lacson, presidential aspirant for 2022.